Okay, thank you very much. I'm talking today about economic efficiency of architectural competitions. I made a study on this topic within the RGE network, and I'm working for the Austrian Chamber of Architects, and I'm specialized on architectural competitions. The main idea of this study I made is the question if the project that wins a competition, wins the first prize, we usually say that it's the best solution concerning architectural quality. And the question arises if this project should also be one of the best economic solutions. And the answer in advance is yes, it is. I analyzed 40 different competitions and found out that in 39 of these 40 competitions, this answer is true. And we have to consider that every single project of a competition can be realized, or any proposal made by an architect can be realized, not just the one of the first prize winner, but if we have no competition, then it's obviously another project. And my analysis shows that usually it's much less effective in economic concerns. The possibility of ADCs, of architectural competitions, is that you can compare a lot of different projects, a lot of different proposals for one single task. And I show you here the evaluation of one competitions with 40 projects about the GFA, the general floor area, which is important for checking the costs of the construction. And you see here in this first slide, in this graphic, that we have 40 projects and an average of about 13,000 square meter GFA. And the winner project, the project number 14, has about 12,500. But there are several projects which have a much higher number of GFA. And the one who have more than 15,000 square meters means that this is more than 20% in comparison to the winner. And these projects are the project number 1, 17, and quite obviously the projects number 24 and 39. And the main thesis of my study is, if the client doesn't make the comparison within a competition, he cannot recognize the differences and deviations, and maybe ends up with a project that is not economical, because maybe he makes the contract with the planning team of project 39. Next slide, please. If we come back to the question, if the best solution in concern of city planning, architecture, and functionality should also be the best project economically, how can we check this? I did this by comparing the GFA totals of 40 different competitions. These competitions were all open competitions. mainly single-stage open competitions. And based on the client's key figures, the estimated construction costs were determined. For the winning project, of course, and for the project with the maximum GFA, and then based on the average of all GFA values within one competition. I found out that the difference between the winning project and the maximum project indicates the cost risk of the client. Because the client must also consider the worst possible solution, the maximum difference in the analysis of GFA, and therefore the maximum cost difference is the cost risk that the client faces. We have within this 40 competitions very different sizes, from very small task with about 780 square meter GFA till very large, huge projects, hospitals, university projects with about 156,000 square meters. And the total construction costs of all these 40 competitions are 2.5 billion euros. And by comparing the first prize winner with the project with the maximum of GFA, there is a cost risk of 571 million euro, or 18.5% of the construction costs. If I check the average numbers, there are still 92 million euros of savings, or 3.5% of the construction costs. This result is true for 39 of the 40 competitions, and the maximum reduction of costs we see in one competition up to 40% of the construction costs. And the average numbers are there we see reductions in 26 of the 40 competitions, but there are some arguments against these average numbers. Next slide, please. I also checked the costs of the competition itself, because many people say that competitions are costly and time-consuming. The costs of these 40 competitions range between 96,000 up to 2.9 million euros, or 0.24 to 4.4% of the estimated construction costs. Of course, the small competitions are much more expensive than the big ones. For instance, the two largest competitions with much more than 2 million euros competition costs range about 0.8 to 0.9% of the construction costs. And this is very near to the average. The average of all 40 competitions concerning the competition costs is 0.7 of the estimated construction costs of the winning projects. This means that competitions nearly cost nothing. And if we compare the costs for the competition and the possible reduction of construction costs, we have an amortization factor of average 18.8. And concerning the maximum risk of the client, we have an amortization factor of 32. In average values, I found out that in every single competition, the client can save around 14 million euros. And in the average cost risk, still the competition saves 2.3 million euros each of these 40 competitions. And the competition costs are approximately only 440,000 euros per competition. In the graphic below on this slide, you see the cost reductions. And as I said, one competition doesn't show this saving effect. This is the competition number 22. But on the other hand, we have the competition number 28 with only 60% of the maximum estimated costs. The winner comes out. And this means that in general, the competition brings significantly more profit for the client than it costs. And obviously, it should be considered by the clients to do even a competition than a purely negotiated procedure in this concern. Next slide, please. The study, I wanted the study to be aimed at clients with little or no experience. I have, in my work for the Austrian Chamber, I have a lot of talks to decision makers in small villages, mayors, etc. And there are many critical ideas and doubts about the competition always when I'm talking with them. And mainly they deal with the costs of the competitions and the risks they have to take. And therefore, they are often strongly opposed to architectural competitions in the beginning of this of the speech, of the talk, of the discussion. But later on, when I'm explaining how to do this and how to see certain things, we often agree at last to make a competition together. Now the question is, if we have to deal with the maximum risk or the average result, because the average result is just a mathematical solution, a statistical term, but the maximum cost risk is based on specific calculation of real projects within the competition, and not only a term that comes out if you count and compare different numbers. And the maximum risk is the exact outcome by comparing the winning project and the project with the maximum GFA. And concerning the average numbers, there are different doubts and arguments against the possibility of achieving an average project for the client. We see if we analyze projects like this, different distortions in calculating the average. But this may not be relevant for the individual client, because the average numbers are always calculated based on many case numbers. Like in this case, I have this 40 competitions and more than 200, not more than much more single projects to compare. So I can make an average outcome, but the single client can't. He has only one project, maybe one kindergarten he has to build, and he has no second kindergarten or third, and certainly not 40 kindergartens he can compare with each other. If we concentrate on this mathematical outcome, we do not include the distortions that come out from procedures which are not based on very many numbers. For instance, if a negotiated procedure is turned out, we have usually 3 to 5 different firms, and we have to consider the quality of the planning firms and the interests of them, which are usually lower in concerns of the quality of the project, and especially they have to contract by quite low contracting fees, and therefore the interests of these offices are not based on the high quality of the architecture itself. Then there is another argument that the clients often don't know exactly what they should commission and to what extent. The program, area program, which can be very exactly defined within a competition, is often too large when a client with no experience starts a project, like a school building or another public building, which makes the contract unnecessarily expensive. I have the experience in small villages that I often talk to people, and I have to explain them that the program is much too big to realize this certain project. And within a competition, you can find out how compact a certain topic can be made, a certain planning task can be achieved. On the other hand, if the clients avoid competitions, they have this comparison. They don't have this comparison anymore. Then we have a mathematical problem within this study I made in concern of the average numbers, because the low values of the of GFA of projects within this study are partly due to projects with errors in the error verifications. If you know the principles of competitions, you know that in preliminary examinations you often find projects with not correct construction error, or even usable area that is missing, and we found out that often the traffic area is much too high, and so on, and therefore we have distortions in two directions. One's very small GFA, which is based on errors in the fulfilling of the program, and on the other hand, we have very high GFA numbers when planning teams are not able to fulfill the task in the correct way. And especially concerning the very small projects, we have this problems in the construction area, and this these projects we shouldn't count. And if we would do this, but this effort would have been much too high for this study, the outcome would be even much better for this comparison between the first prize winner and the maximum GFA project. Then we have, as I said, this statistical problem that the client only has one case to consider. If we want to have an average number, we need a large number of cases to get a right outcome. And this singularity of the client, that he only has always one program, means that he has a very high risk, and he cannot statistically calculate with an average result. Next slide, please. There's always the doubt if compactness is a value in itself, because the study concentrates on GFA numbers and costs in comparison with GFA numbers, and therefore compactness is the value we measure the differences. But of course, compactness is not a value in itself. But the question arises why first prize-winning projects still have a high degree of compactness. And we found out that the well-organized floor plans are responsible for this, that we see the first winning projects in all these 40 competitions within the better third of all projects within the competitions. And therefore, this outcome is so impressive that we have cost savings within 39 of these 40 competitions. But compactness in this sense is not only a factor for economic efficiency, but is also a factor for the quality of the architecture itself, by better orientation, shorter routes, better lighting conditions, and so on. And there are also factors to consider which we cannot count in economic terms, like life cycle costs and intangible qualities with cost relevance, like health and well-being of the people who live or work in these buildings. Then we have a lot of synergies and interactions we could not count within this study. And not at least we have socio-political aspects like ethics within politics, or ethics within decision-making, in contracting, and so on, transparent procurement, participation in ecological arguments. All these cannot be counted in such a study. We only could concentrate on the construction costs. But the effect would be much, much higher if we could count all these other aspects. I also made, based on the RGE ADC map, a calculation of the cost reduction within all of Europe's planning and architectural competitions. And found out that this would be based on the numbers of the last year, about 28 billion euro for each year. And this is a very a large number and should be considered in political decisions, and as well as in our profession, how we do things within competitions or outside of competitions. Last but not least, we have to see that the architectural scene in Europe is based on very small businesses. We have in Europe altogether about 60% of one person's enterprises. And for instance, in Austria, we have about 99% of very small businesses, which cannot compete within the negotiated procedures we have in Austria for public buildings. If not, there is an open competition. Therefore, open competition supports small firms and young professionals, and this is also an economic benefit we have to see for the society as a whole. Next slide, please. The conclusion is for me that the economic efficiency must be thought as a result of quality. And it's not the other way around, that economic benefit comes out of low fees within negotiation procedures. This should be the message to clients and politicians. And especially in the light of multiple crises, we have to ask if we can still afford to award contracts to the lowest bidder. And my answer would be no. And my answer also would be that the procurement processes within the European laws must be rethought. Thank you very much. You can find the whole study in the on the RGE network. You find on this last slide the link to the white paper where the study is published. Thank you very much.